allow me to personally thank you all for coming out to honor our nation's fallen military members on this Memorial Day. President Ronald Reagan once said, most of those who died in defense of our country were boys when they died. And they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. They gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up everything for their country, for us. All we can do is remember. Since 1868, some 3 years past the end of the Civil War, when Memorial Day was first known as Decoration Day, many patriotic men and women have honored those who have paid the ultimate price with words of comfort and appreciation. But this quote from President Reagan has always touched me deeply. After all, it is not possible to truly honor America's real heroes without understanding the sacrifices they have made. I've no doubt that there are plenty of people here today who have served. From the American Revolution in the late 18th century to the current war in Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands of brave Americans have perished while serving in uniform. And so I'm sure there are plenty of people here today who have been personally affected by the high cost of freedom. Sometime today, think back on your life. Think back to the day you were married. Picture just how beautiful your bride or how handsome your husband was on that day. Think of the day your first child was born. Remember the first time your child uttered a dirty word in front of you and how you looked at your spouse and started arguing over which one of you taught him that new bit of vocabulary. Think of the pride you felt when you first walked through the front door of your very own home. Remember how you furnished that first house with all that stuff you swiped from your parents' houses. But while thinking back on all the good times in your life, remember what President Reagan said. Remember that most of those who have died for our country missed out on so much of what makes our lives so rich. In late 2009 and early 2010, I served in Kirkuk, Iraq, as the Operations Center radio and telephone operator. In a nutshell, I was responsible for communicating between the Security Forces commander and his support staff, and the rest of the Air Force Security Forces personnel responsible for base defense. The time I spent overseas was made infinitely better due to the wonderful and thoughtful care packages from home. Of course, like most deployed military members, much of what I received was from family and friends. And believe me when I tell you this, Dunkin' Donuts coffee tastes 10 times better when you're far from home and missing the simple day-to-day things we often take for granted here in the States. However, many of the care packages that found their way to northern Iraq were sent to us by strangers. Sometimes a private organization or another would send us just basic toiletries or candy or maybe a deck of playing cards. Sometimes an elementary school class would send us letters. The simple prayers, thoughts, and often thought-provoking questions you get from 6- and 7-year-olds are guaranteed to put a smile on your face. These gifts always meant the most because they were from strangers. Our morale was always lifted by the idea that the people of America were thankful for our service, regardless of whether or not they actually knew us personally. It is the very support I've just been describing that enables America's military members to put on a uniform, pack their gear, kiss their loved ones goodbye, and hop on a plane. It is the support that you are all showing today by coming out here to honor our fallen brothers and sisters in arms that makes our small sacrifices worthwhile. There are very few men and women that can go into a combat zone where they may have to lay down their lives without the support of the American people. For many Americans, Memorial Day is a time of family and friends. It is a time for backyard barbecues, and it's the kickoff to summer. But for those who truly understand President Reagan's words, for those who truly understand what the fight for continued freedom demands, Memorial Day is a time of remembrance and gratitude. Memorial Memorial Day is a time of honoring those who gave up everything for their country, for us. Your attendance at this Memorial Day ceremony shows that you do understand the sacrifices made every day by the men and women of America's armed forces. And for that, I thank you. May God bless and keep you, and may God bless America.
I'd like to direct your attention now to the south, to your right, where there'll be a wreath laying from the American Legion post.